to learn the secret of being human. James Spader falls into a nightmare when he marries a dream lover. And there's no business like show business in That's Entertainment 3.
That footage never made it into the movies, but it did make it into That's Entertainment 3, the third time MGM has plundered its vaults for treasures from the golden age of musicals. It's one of the new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert, along with new films starring Robin Williams and James Spader in a thriller. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Our first film is That's Entertainment 3, and I really like these time capsule compilation films from the MGM musical department, particularly this one for giving us outtakes and cut scenes from the MGM library. For example, here Debbie Reynolds in a song cut from the classic Singing in the Rain.
You are my lucky star.
And Lena Horne tells us that this number from 1943's Cabin in the Sky was cut because, she says, the image of a black woman in a bubble bath was feared to be too risque at the time.
It's the truth, it's the solid, mellow truth.
And here's a comparison of Fred Astaire in two different costumes performing the same dance number for 1952's Belle of New York. The one on the left was actually used, but notice he's in perfect sync with himself. That's Entertainment 3 can be a really good film for the whole family. Youngsters, I think, will be amazed to see these Esther Williams clips and be told that at one time, she was the studio's biggest star. All this BTV before television. Classic moments that did make it into finished films are also recalled, including the absolute reverie of Sid Charisse's favorite personal memory, dancing with Gene Kelly in Brigadoon. That lovely scene is 40 years old, but it might as well be 400 years old. It's so foreign to today's entertainment. I think what I like best about the That's Entertainment series is that it states that these films in this studio were culturally important, that film matters, even the outtakes. And that kind of light scholarly approach also begs the question, I think, that should be put to today's movie makers. What films are you making that are going to be worth preserving and looking at in another 40 years?
Boy, I enjoyed it too, and you know, frankly, I didn't think they had enough left in the vaults for another movie. I thought they'd be scraping the bottom of the barrel, but what they did was show us stuff that has never seen the light of day before. For example, that amazing side-by-side comparison of Joan Crawford and Sid Charisse.
Oh, I know.
Both singing the same song, and the song is dubbed by another singer. So you hear the same soundtrack. And they threw away the Sid Charisse sequence, but in another movie, they brought the song back and put it in there with Joan Crawford, and of course, she just looks terrible.
Awful.
I mean, it's one of the worst production numbers I've ever seen, and the movie is witty enough to point out that they probably threw away the wrong version. Yeah.
The business with Fred Astaire is brilliant, and I have said this before. I think, and every time I see him, and I love seeing him in this compilation film, Fred Astaire, I think, was as great an artist in what he did in film as there has ever been in any facet of filmmaking. He's completely incomparable. You can't help but watch him.
You watch him, and it is marvelous. And remember what Ginger Rogers said. I did everything he did, and I did it backwards.
Yeah, but also,
give her some credit, too.
Yeah, but we looked at him.
Okay, next movie. And our next movie is a sequel called Three Ninjas Kick Back. a family film about three young little leaguers whose other sport is ninja kickboxing. They get lessons from their Japanese-American grandfather, who is in the great tradition of wise old movie martial arts instructors.
Keep your eyes on the target. Wipe all thoughts from your mind. And keep your energy focused on the target.
That's Victor Wong as the grandfather. He treasures a ceremonial dagger, which an old enemy in Japan also covets. So the Japanese man sends his grungy American nephew and two friends to try to steal the knife. And in a scene inspired by Home Alone, the three young ninja heroes make life miserable for the would-be burglars.
Yeah! Yeah!
Who are you guys? Teenage Mutant wannabes?
No! We're the three ninjas!
Grandfather goes to Japan and the grandsons follow him. The middle brother gets involved in a kickboxing tournament, and it's a law of the movies that whenever a costume obscures your opponent's face, it turns out at the end to be, you got it, it's a girl.
Girl? A girl? A girl?
Three Ninjas Kick Back is a good-natured movie that seems made out of the spare parts of Home Alone, Bad News Bears, and maybe even some leftover Ninja Turtles. The plot is not original, the action is less than inspired, and the comedy tends toward jokes about baseball players passing gas while they run around the bases, and then, of course, everybody faints, and that's supposed to be hilarious. I also thought this movie was over about 10 minutes before it finally ended. I can't recommend it, but I probably ought to say that younger children might find it entertaining.
Dim-witted younger children.
Oh,
younger
no, don't
children.
say that,
Yes,
James.
I want to
No,
be.
no.
I want to be the
at
cruel
a certain
one.
age, at a certain age, younger children are just younger children.
No,
you don't have to insult their intelligence.
No, at a younger age, certain kids will sit there if their parents take them to a brainless piece of entertainment. This is not quality, and I don't want you suggesting that people might like it. I think that they, you know, I actually liked the first Three Ninjas movie, and I think if parents have their kids who want to see this picture, I'd say rent the first one. Don't take them to this.
Now,
It's
you're
really quite
you're
bad.
doing a great job of setting yourself up as the great noble defender of childhood entertainment.
Yes,
but
I
the
am.
fact is, kids are kids. And this is a
Well,
kids movie. And
I
it has
think kids ought to
baseball
have-
in it,
Oh, come on.
and it has
And
pratfalls.
bad baseball. There isn't a funny baseball moment. You just dumped on the picture. Why soften it? Who are you championing? The filmmakers?
I'm trying to put out a little bit of information that might be of useful to
Yeah.
some kid out there that might enjoy this film.
Yeah, it's lousy, but Uncle Raj says you might like it. There you go. Who are you a friend of?
Coming up next, I'm the friend of the trusting filmgoer, Gene. Robin Williams takes us through 5 ages of man in his latest movie called Being Human.
You're my closest, my dearest slave. I'm asking you to die with me.
No. No. God, no.
Hector.
Tonya.
I used to know how to do this. I was really good at this.
That's Robin Williams as a man in pain through the ages in Being Human, one of the most misguided projects of the year, a hopeless, well-intentioned mess following Robin Williams from caveman times through the present day as a suffering male. And my guess is that this project was developed at somebody's psychotherapy sessions in Beverly Hills, where it should have remained as a private conversation. For example, here's Robin Williams in Roman times. I guess this is supposed to be funny. He's a slave whose suicidal master wants them to die together.
Sir, he's going to help you.
I have to kill myself by tomorrow morning.
What?
He has all my letters to Titinius. None of them got through. He says it's like treason, and he says I should want to die for owing him $500,000 anyway. I'm done for, Hector. Strange. I feel kind of good about it. Struggle is over. We've seen it through together, eh?
That's John Turturro as the master. The film opens and closes in the present day as Williams, playing a divorced dad who has served time in prison for white-collar crime, talks with the children he hasn't seen in years. He talks about life getting better, but his kids, well, the wise young ones, they say the darndest things.
Everything's going to be okay.
What do you mean going to be? This is it.
What?
I told you, Dad. This is as good as it gets. This might be the best moment of your life. How much better do you want it?
Not much.
Enjoy it.
Thanks for the tip.
And those, dear moviegoers, and I am the one that looks out for you on this show, those are the only 2 scenes that the makers of Being Human are releasing to us. Whole movie, they could only come up with 2 scenes. They must know they have a turkey, and it's a shame, for Being Human represents a wasted, well-intentioned effort from Robin Williams, to whom you feel like saying in this picture, quit your whining and be funny. And director Bill Forsyth from Scotland, he's made some very droll comedies and wonderful slice-of-life pictures, but his personal touch is missing from Being Human, a stunning failure on the level of Robin Williams in Toys.
Well, this is a much worse film than Toys. In fact, it's a much worse film than almost anything I can think of. It's a complete vacuum. And the amazing thing to me is that none of the scenes seem to have any point, or any payoff, or any direction, or any drive, or any narrative thread that follows through. It seems to be sort of just like whimsical, aimless dialogue, and you sit there just waiting for anything to happen.
Men have missed their children and been alienated from life throughout the ages.
Yes,
okay,
that's true,
we know that.
Yeah.
Now show us some scenes that mean something.
Yeah.
And to have us, to think that we would make the leaps that this film makes without there being real connective tissue is really strange.
You know, I think they missed a real good story in the caveman sequence, because you notice the cavemen were wearing woven clothing, so that they had looms somewhere in those caves. That was an interesting development that the movie missed out on.
Big news.
Yeah, there you are. When we come back, James Spader meets his dream lover, and she turns out to be a nightmare.
You're a psychopath.
Probably.
I'm Ray.
Lena.
Hi, Lena.
James Spader runs into Machen Amick in a supermarket and is love at first sight for him in Dream Lover. This is, he thinks, the most wonderful woman in the world. On their first date, she confesses that she feels the same way about him, and in an amazingly short time, they're married. But at the wedding ceremony, a few things don't add up.
By the way, I think our friend Larry's a little jealous of you. Yes, because you're basically disgusting. You have it all. I do.
I haven't danced so much since.
She's strong, too. Did you see the way she was whirling me around out there? Oh, sorry. Wow.
Oh, it's nothing. I just...
Oh, you and Ray like the rough stuff? Why didn't you tell me? I've got some equipment I can lend you.
No. I'm a klutz.
He begins to suspect that his wife is not who she says she is, and the more he suspects, the more jealous he grows. But she seems to have an answer to every question.
I'm in the CIA.
I had to give him some reason why they couldn't visit.
What about that story, your mother beating you, your father watching?
Not true. There's lots of different kinds of abuse within a family.
Right, okay. But if the things that you tell me aren't true, then what is true, Lena?
Driven mad by passion and jealousy, he strikes her and she calls the police. He ends up institutionalized, the victim of a woman he didn't know as well as he thought.
So, what are you doing here?
Friday's your hearing, and I wanted to tell you. Whichever way it goes.
Whichever way it goes. I'm not dangerous. I'm not crazy. They aren't going to keep me in here.
The final scenes in this movie are a little too neat for their own good, but for most of the length of Dream Lover, the movie really held my attention. It was clear somehow right from the start that this romance was not made in heaven. It seems to be a melancholy rule of modern movies that beautiful women always represent danger, not desire. But I couldn't guess what the angle was, and Spader and Amick worked well together at building up first the passion and then the suspense.
I like most of it too, Roger, but when you say that the ending is too neat, it's worse than too neat. Yeah. It's a complete collapse, and it's going to leave people very frustrated, and it really burned me out. I thought that they had worked so well before that that should have gone through at least another rewrite. That's not fair to do that to the audience. It's going to be one of those things, you mean that's all it is? You're going to have people burned out.
Well, it's not that it's all it is. It's just that it's just sort of... It manipulates things at the end in a way that brings everything to a conclusion.
If you like the picture, you would like it to go on for a half an hour and explore the very device.
That's your old theory about how pictures should be 3 hours long or 4 hours long. If you like a movie, you never want it to end. It has to end sooner or later. I thought that about 90% of this picture was really pretty good.
A lot of it is very good. She's a new young face and a presence in the movie. I think she's good. Spader's interesting. If people like this, let me just recommend one other one very similar to it that never got any attention. Home video, A Kiss Before Dying with Matt Dillon and Sean Young.
Yeah, that was a good movie. Coming up next, a controversial new film whose distributors contested its adults-only rating for its sexual content and lost. But more important, is the movie any good? Kika is next.
The latest from the controversial Spanish filmmaker Pedro Almodovar, who has never been a favorite of mine, more flash than substance to his work for me, as he makes sexy, violent, cartoonish commentaries on trendy Spanish life, as in here in Kika, following the adventures of a makeup artist named Kika and the weirdos she meets, including her maid, played by the odd-looking Almodovar regular, Rossi de Palma.
No me veo yo en una pasarela. Me gustaría ser jefa de prisiones. Rodeada de tías todo el santo día.
Qué heavy eres, Juana.
Soy auténtica.
Desde luego.
The American actor Peter Coyote also stars in Kika, playing a possibly homicidal novelist accused by a TV tabloid show hostess who runs around wearing a video camera on her head.
Un asesino múltiple. Si quieres te hago un relato exhaustivo de mis deducciones. Pero te agradecería que me ahorraras la ostentación. No disponemos de tiempo.
Kika is being released without a rating because its distributors lost their fight with the MPAA over its initial NC-17 rating, adults only, received principally for an extended rape scene that I'm sure the filmmaker considers comic. I found it tedious, like so much in Kika, as here Kika talks about being the victim of the rape.
Ha sido todo muy desagradable. Pero ya pasó, así que lo mejor será olvidarlo.
Perdóname, Kika, pero no entiendo nada.
Jo, Ramón, pareces bobo. Pues es que estas cosas pasan todos los días y hoy me ha tocado a mí.
Yeah.
I was really turned off by Kika, not because I'm a prude and I couldn't handle it and I was shocked, but because for all of its colorful set decoration, it's an empty film packed with tired ideas of the media's fascination with the lurid, about sex as a driving force in the world. And as to the rating controversy, I have no problem with the film being rated NC-17. If you're going to have an adults-only rating, I guess this qualifies. But my quarrel is with the film itself. I found Kika to be a waste of time.
Boy, I did too. And you know, I like your word empty because it is empty. And the thing about Almodovar is there's really nothing in any of his films, recently anyway,
that's right,
that is at all sexy. He takes the sexual and he objectifies it into costumes, into bizarre melodramatic plots, into put-on sensibility. He doesn't really seem to have any interest in his characters as people. If you really want to see a sexy Spanish film, go see Jamón Jamón, J-A-M-O-N, comma, J-A-M-O-N, which is the sexiest film I've seen in the last year. But this film just doesn't make it.
You know, I think he has a coterie of friends who, you know, praise him or something, and he's trendy, but I know that you haven't liked his latest pictures either, and this is a case where the emperor has no clothes,
there
really.
There is nobody at home. There isn't really a sensibility behind all of this flash and style.
A lot of decoration, no thought. When we come back, Roger's laser pick of the month, 7 Buster Keaton movies he's never seen before.
And it's a remarkable new set of Buster Keaton films you have probably not seen before. Keaton was one of the greatest stars of silent comedy, but his career took a nosedive with the introduction of talking pictures, and in his later years he was reduced to supporting roles and TV guest shots. But he did survive for a while in the age of talkies, long enough to make 7 talking features, none of which I had ever seen until MGM released a box set on Laserdisc this month. Here's a scene from one of the best, Speak Easily, starring Keaton as a shy professor who thinks he has inherited the money to produce a Broadway show. Jimmy Durante is the veteran hoofer who becomes his best pal.
Now that is authentic.
Uh-huh.
But it would be much more effective if you were in the nude. Professor, that's out. No nudes. But James, it was done so in Athens.
Yeah, they might get away with that in Athens. That's a college town.
Keaton was known as the great stone face in silent films, and even in talkies he keeps a straight face, as in this version of his famous vaudeville routine where he's trying to deal with an inebriated showgirl. Buster Keaton was at his best in the elaborate sight gags he choreographed for his silent films. Too often in these early talking pictures, he seems to feel the need to talk, and the balance tilts away from physical comedy and into dialogue. But Buster Keaton was one of the greatest comedians of his time, and despite the limitations of these early talkies, his genius still occasionally shines here. Buster Keaton, the MGM talkies on Laserdisc, my pick of the month. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed this week. 2 big thumbs up for That's Entertainment 3, with its fascinating discoveries from the MGM vaults of many musical numbers that had never been seen until now. 2 thumbs down, though, for Three Ninjas Kick Back, a routine children's martial arts movie. We didn't like it, but I thought kids might, and I still do. 2 more thumbs down for The Inexplicable Being Human, a rambling, whimsical, pointless, and confusing trip through human history with the hapless Robin Williams. 2 thumbs up on Dream Lover. We both like the romance that turns into a diabolical nightmare, but we both thought that the ending was really a sad letdown after a pretty good picture. And 2 thumbs down for Pedro Almodovar's Kika, another one of the Spanish director's overwrought soap operas. So that's Entertainment 3
right.
and Dream Lover, all except for the end, right?
You've got that right. That's it for this week. Next week we'll be back with The Crow, starring the late Brandon Lee as a resurrected rock star turned crime fighter, and Crooklyn, Spike Lee's story of a New York family growing up in the 70s. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.